Good morning and welcome to the Daily Cyber Briefing for Monday, the 14th of July. I'm Stephen Ridgway. There is a vulnerability in WinRAR that has a zero-day exploit being listed for sale for $80,000 on a dark web forum. Regardless of how they're selling the exploit, would I pay for an exploit? No, I wouldn't. Other than a very momentary first mover advantage. Others will rapidly work out how to do this, or will simply steal it, steal the exploit from somebody else. Anyway, the most important thing is that there is a vulnerability in WinRAR. WinRAR is one of the world's most popular file compression utilities. So, I think most people will have come across it one way or another. Certainly most people in tech will have come across it one way or another. So be aware. Presumably there will be a patch made available at some point in the not too distant future. Bringing this to your attention. If you use WinRAR, just be aware of this. It's a previously unknown remote code execution vulnerability that affects the current and earlier versions. With, as I say in the article, significant concerns for millions of users worldwide, which is kind of true, I think. So if you're using WinRAR, watch out for patches and updates. In the meantime, it might be worth having a little look into what can be done through this vulnerability, how the exploit works, and perhaps consider putting in place some mitigations in the meantime. There's a critical vulnerability in Fortinet's FortiWeb, which allows for full takeover of devices. This one's got a CVE, so CVE 2025-25257. 25257, good number. Does anybody else think about numbers as good and bad? I do. Anyway, there we go. So critical FortiWeb SQL injection, which allows unauthenticated remote code execution. Effectively, it's an unauthenticated SQL injection in the GUI of the FortiWeb device. So rather than worry too much about how to exploit it, because I think pretty much all of us, even if like me you're a bit rusty on this stuff and would have to go back and look up things like 1 equals 1 or whatever. The key to this is that there are patches available. So the vulnerable versions include 7.6, 7.4, 7.2, and 7.0. The patched versions are 7.6.4 or newer, 7.4.8 or newer, 7.2.11 or newer, or 7.0.11 or newer. So check which versions you're running if you are running this. Apply the patches. If you are not able to apply the patches, be aware that SQL injection vulnerability is exploitable on these devices on earlier versions. So at the very least, make sure you've got some monitoring in place for attempted SQL injection attacks against your devices. An interesting article I came across in the Hacker News this morning, eSIM vulnerability in Kigen's eUICC cards exposes billions of IoT devices to malicious attacks. That was billions with a B, not millions with an M. So eSIMs, for the possibly 0.something% of a person that hasn't come across the concept, traditionally mobile devices have had a physical SIM in them. I remember when that was the size of a credit card, and it's now about the size of your little fingernail. But it's physical. Onto which is all of the information that allows your device to connect to and authenticate with your mobile provider. Well, if you think about it, anything that can be stored on a removable, because that's just, that's effectively just a chip on a chip on a card. Well, if you can put information on a chip on a card in a device, you could put the chip in the device and write to that. So, which is effectively all an eSIM does. It removes the requirement for you to have a physical SIM in a device by providing a platform by which you can load the software and the information that you would need onto the device directly, rather than have to have it on the chip and then put the chip in the device. Blah. So, very useful for IoT devices because you don't really want people trying to work out how to put a SIM card into a fridge, that kind of thing. So, it's common out there. Even mobile devices and like mobile phones and tablets and things now can support eSIMs, or at least some can. Certainly, better known Android devices can. I don't think Apple can, but I could be wrong on that one. I haven't actually looked for a long time. However, there is a vulnerability in the components associated with the eSIM, embedded SIM. The vulnerability is based around the generic test profile in version 6.0 and earlier. So the generic test profile is used for radio frequency testing, I believe, but just remains on the device. So it's what's called the GSMA TS48 generic test profile. It allows effectively for takeover of the device. The attacker needs physical access to the device, but once has got physical access, can use publicly known keys in order to change profiles on the device, upload applets. Basically, it gives them quite extensive control over the device, even to the point of being able to lock out the legitimate owner of the device. It would give the attacker the ability to monitor communications and so on and so forth. So it is quite serious. So it's fixed in version 7.0, so GSMA TS48 version 7.0, which was released last month. So if you are using a device with an eSIM, check that it has updated to be using version 7 of GSMA TS48. Interesting challenge will be if your IoT device doesn't give you the ability to go and look at what it's running. Which is not uncommon. So this may be a bit of a challenge. And I think this overall in the industry, this is an area that we haven't really got to grips with. It is, most people understand about, I must update my mobile phone, I must update my computer, my laptop, my tablet, whatever it may be. IoT devices are absolutely everywhere. I must update my home CCTV security camera. I must update my doorbell. I must update my smart fridge. They're just not in the forefront of most people's minds. And equally, updates may not be available. I've seen, and in the past used, cheap Chinese CCTV webcams as just to actually mostly monitor what the dog's doing if I've popped out to go shopping or something like that. I have never seen them actually upgrade themselves. Every time you go in and say, check for updates, it comes back saying you're on the latest version, and has done for years. So interesting. Don't use those anymore. That dates back to a previous me. But yeah, so it may well be that it isn't possible to update devices, and so these sort of vulnerabilities will just kick around. Curious one, difficult to completely mitigate the risks without having support from the vendor of the devices, but definitely worth being aware of. I think the best mitigation to this is that the attacker needs physical access to the device. So if you I don't know, what are you going to do? Don't lend your fridge to people that might compromise it. Oh, yeah, all right, okay. In the realms of slightly ridiculous. Anyway, that is enough from me for the moment. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you have a good start to the week, and I will speak to you all again tomorrow morning.